today I'll be refuting the speech, Unhealthy Meal Plans. College meal plans harm freshman students. What this is about is meal plans, because they are required to freshman students that dorm. And this is to ensure that regardless of their ability to cook or provide meals for themselves, does not get in the way of them actually receiving a meal. And so, meal plans are meant to be beneficial. They offer a variety of many different foods as well as a variety of locations throughout the campus. The advocates' secondary claims were that although it is meant to be beneficial, they actually majorly contribute to unhealthy freshman eating habits, such as eating more and more often, spending limited money on cheap snacks, and they grow no sense of food costs or money management. Now, for this first claim that meal plans cause students to eat more and in larger quantities, the advocate claimed that there was a 20% student, that a study showed that almost 20% of students gained 10% or more, 10 or more pounds during their freshman year, and 6% gained the freshman 15 or more at the end of freshman year. And more than 17% were overweight or obese compared to 14% at the start of the year. Now, I'm saying that just because this percentage shows that there was a weight gain in freshman students, it does not imply that students are overeating and eating more frequently because of meal plans. The external factors such as food eaten outside of the school, the student's physical activity in the past compared to the present, at the time of the statistics being taken, the student's alcohol consumption, and the student's stress level should have been considered. And aside from that, the statistics that these were based on were not on students with meal plans. They were just based on the general population of students. So the implication that meal plans cause overeating and frequent eating intervals is incorrect. Her second supporting claim to that was that the freshman 15, which is a 15-pound weight gain, was caused through the consumption of foods that were high in fat and carbohydrate, which is the cafeteria style of food that we see in most universities. I said that the same source states that weight gain, as I mentioned previously, is also caused by alcohol intake, which is a large scene in universities, and so that external factor should have been considered. The third warrant to that claim was that food places were conveniently located on campus were unhealthy. And to ground it, she said that the second warrant was that because of the hours, students eat as much as they can to prevent feeling hungry later. The grounds were that Los Olivos hours were from 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and you could only have 2 meals offered on weekends, and so they were time constricted. But just because lunch service hours are strict does not imply that students are overeating in their meals. If there are only 2 meals available on weekends and they are overeating, are they not making up for that third meal? And if they are not eating outside of school, or if they are, wouldn't that be the third meal and an external factor not considered in that argument? And lastly, for that secondary claim was that there are not many healthy choices in the cafeteria, mostly oily and buttery food. That a recent study by Cornell University found that an average of college freshmen gain 0.5 pounds per week. That is almost 11 times more than the average weight gain among 17 through 18-year-olds. And the lack of healthy food choices, or how oily and buttery the food options are, does not contribute to why students feel compelled to eat a certain amount each day in order to waste their money. So the point that was trying to be made was irrelevant because the evidence to the point was irrelevant to the secondary claim itself. Now, the second secondary claim was that the cashing out option influences students to eat cheap, unhealthy foods. The first warrant was that food provided in on-campus markets is mainly junk food, such as chips, soda, candy, microwavable instant meals, and there were hardly any fruit and vegetable options. The grounds were that, and some was a quote, and some were an amount you had for the semester, and once it was gone, you were done. Most people on that plan ended up buying cases of Frappuccino and candy bars and things to spend the rest of their money near the end. And yes, on-campus markets are dominated by junk food, but the evidence you use to support that has no implications as well. The student bought Frappuccino and candy cases because the meal plan points and bucks do not roll over to the next meal plan. In other words, he was cheating the system so his money can be used for the next semester. In this counter argues your supporting claim to your major argument that students don't grow a sense of money management. The second warrant to the secondary claim was by cashing out, students either use it or lose it. When cashing out, the deal is $6 or nothing, so if a student is under, they will grab some candy or something cheap to reach the full potential of money. Yes, in cashing out, students either use it or lose it, but not all students use it, not all students lose it. Not all students are money strict and care about reaching the full potential, and some students will be money strict and will reach the money's potential. So what point are you trying to make if there is no argument in your point, in your grounds? And thirdly, for that secondary claim, was that the food places on campus are inconvenient. The convenient locations on campus are unhealthy. Okay. The first warrant was that I didn't eat, it was a quote, I didn't eat more in college than I did at home, but I ate crap. Instead of having a nice, balanced, healthy dinner like Mom used to make, I ate Arby's for a chicken finger meal with curly fries. The second grounds was that most common dining halls found at universities or colleges around America are buffet, court, or cafeteria-style eateries. Dining halls can provide a wide variety of bountiful options of food. They can also provide a place where students can endlessly indulge in high-calorie foods such as pizza, fried food, and ice cream. In conclusion, the arguments made had insufficient or irrelevant evidence, and meal plans cannot be determined whether or not they are healthy for students.
A little overtime. I think what you're trying to do. I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to repeat the advocate's argument too much, piece of evidence by piece of evidence, and it takes up too much time. You got to get to the crux of the point and get to the crux of your response to the evidence. And I think that you needed to have sharper responses on some of the evidence. Sometimes it just comes down to, look, there's no link between the claim that they're making and the evidence that they've got. Or the evidence doesn't provide any statistic that supports that point. It's just an inference that's being made here, and it's an assumption that hasn't been demonstrated here. There are a few simple challenges that you can make. I think you also overdo the organization on the internal points so that it gets a little bit confusing. You're doing way too much reading. All right, you're very dependent on the notes, and you need to kind of look at us and tell us what the arguments mean. You did get lost at a couple of spots. You started an argument, and you set it up, and you spent time on it, and then nothing happened with it. It just kind of disappeared. So you just need to be a little bit more focused in what your arguments are going to be and why they are important. And I know you're trying to do a complete job, but I think maybe you... you overdid it a little bit on some of those ideas. All right, thank you.